Hi, my name is Brian with CDL Testing Services. We also have a school. Today we're going to talk about some shifting procedures. First thing I want to talk about is your positioning of your clutch. There are three different positions of your clutch. Engaged, the driver's foot is not resting on the clutch pedal. The clutch pedal is fully retracted or at the very top of its travel path. The engine and the transmission are mechanically joined. So these two are put together and your foot is all the way off the clutch. That is engaged. Disengaged. When the clutch pedal is pushed within 2 inches of the floorboard, the clutch is disengaged. This means that the engine and transmission are not mechanically joined. You're disengaging the clutch during a shift and re-engaging the clutch after a shift. So you push the clutch in, and those transmission gears are going to come apart. They're not engaged. You let the clutch up, they come engaged. Clutch brake. Now, remember, there was 3/4 the way down on the disengaging. Now the clutch brake, pushing the clutch pedal down through the final 2 inches of the travel path to the floorboard, engages the clutch brake. This clutch brake stops rotation of the transmission. Use it only when the vehicle is stopped. If the vehicle brake is engaged while the vehicle is moving, the clutch brake assembly will be damaged. So if you push that clutch brake in all the way and you're trying to shift and you got the clutch pedal jammed all the way to the floor, those gears, one of those gears are stopped. So the other one's moving, so there isn't any way for it to connect until it hits that, until it slows down enough that it slides in. That's called more known as grinding the gears. You don't want to grind the gears too much; it wears down the teeth in the transmission, and it causes problems shifting. All right, shifting control transmission. Make sure that you read on the shifter or on the dashboard. There'll be a sequence of gears, and it'll say high, reverse, low, 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 first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. Make sure that you go through it, and this is what I call dry shifting. You want to sit in the truck with the truck turned off, and you want to go through those gears. You want your hand to feel the gear ratios, to feel where the gears are. You want your arm to feel where the gears are. You want to be able to push the clutch and shift. So, double clutching, a lot of drivers tell you, we never double clutch, we never touch the clutch, we float gears, all that. A lot of drivers will float gears. The proper way to shift is using your clutch, disengaging the clutch gears, transmission gears, and engaging the transmission gears. When you float gears, every once in a while when you push that gear up, you'll hear a click. It's just a small grind of the gears. Those two gears will grind and hit and hit and hit. It might be 10,000 miles. It might be 500,000 miles. All of a sudden, one of those teeth break, wear off. Now you've got this, where there is a big wheel gap. If anybody's ever gotten a truck and that shifter was just like a bowl of spaghetti turning like that, and you couldn't find where the gears were, and it was so loose that you didn't know what was going on, that is exactly why. There are some teeth broke off in there. The teeth fit like this now instead of like this. Now you've got this. It's not a good transmission anymore. After a few more miles, you got this. Lot more gap. Transmissions, 20,000, brand new. You might be able to get a used rebuilt for a little less. But the better, what I'm getting to is the better you treat your truck, the more miles and the more money you're going to make. We're all here to make a dollar, right? Okay. So, what I call it dry shifting. You go through those gears with the truck not started. You memorize where those gears are. You move that gear shifter first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and you figure out where those gears are. You use the clutch. Use the clutch while you're sitting there. Figure out where those gears are. Figure out how to double clutch. Figure out how to double clutch downshift. Practice just sitting there. Memorize where those gears are. It'll help you for when you start the truck and you leave, and you've got a little bit of practice already in. Purpose of shifting gears: use the gear shift lever to select a gear you want. Gears are selected while increasing or decreasing speed and torque. A rotational or twisting force is always an H-type pattern. Those gears will be set first, second, third, fourth. They'll look just like an H. Just like an H. And then we go accelerator on the throttle control panel. Purpose: the pedal is used to increase the engine speed. It is located on the floorboard of the vehicle and is operated with the right foot. So your throttle pedal plays a lot in your gears. Your gear ratio upshifting should be done at 1500 RPMs. In 90% of your vehicles, you can bring your RPMs up to 1500, push the clutch in, clutch, upshift. The downshift, first thing you do when you downshift is you brake. Very first thing is brake. Bring it down to 1000 RPMs. A lot of the RPM gauges will say 10. That means you're 1000. Bring that RPM down to 10 and then clutch, rev the gas, clutch it into gear. So you're clutching out of gear, revving the gas, bringing those RPMs back up, and clutching back into gear in a lower gear. You're matching those RPMs so that this lines up again, those gears. Foot control, again, this goes to where you set your seat. Have better foot control, foot and ankle motion, not your whole leg motion. It's if you find yourself shifting too fast that you can't keep up, there's a reason. You control the gas pedal. You control how fast those RPMs come up to 1500. I've seen some people just going, pushing them up 15, boom, 15, boom, 15, boom, 15, boom. And it's like, oh, they're getting tired, they're getting worried, they're getting confused about where their gear is. It's all because they're going too fast. And their foot pedal controls that. And I tell them, hey, you can control that speed of how fast you have to shift. It's your foot. They're like, oh, yeah, you're right. And so it's the same thing with downshifting. Brake to 1000, clutch, rev, clutch. You control the brake. You can't get it stopped soon enough, and you find yourself shifting too fast from gear to gear downshifting. It's because you control those RPMs. You control that brake pedal to bring the RPMs down each time. Okay, throttle control of the throttle means smooth operation of a diesel engine. You need foot and ankle control, which gives you control of the throttle. Proper seat adjustment, like I mentioned, helps position you for that control. A driver must maintain control of the vehicle speed and be able to shift gears. This requires throttle control. So if you're way up in the seat and you're using your toes and your leg to push it, you're leaning in and everything, it's really going to be hard on you, on your truck, and everything else. All right, some trucks have an interaxle differential switch. This is a drive axle connection device. When locked, it provides maximum traction on slippery conditions. Sideways slipping is still possible. It also increases traction during the coupling and uncoupling. Operations: there is a valve in the cab and an air-operated shift unit on the floor on the forward rear axle that lets you lock and unlock the interaxle differential control when stopped or moving at slow speeds. Do not engage if the drive tires are spinning out. It'll grab too hard and break something. It's usually air activated. is not four-wheel drive. Do not think it'll get you out of somewhere. If you get yourself in a bad situation, you were in a bad situation to start with. Do not use the interaxle differential control to get you out. It's not what it's used for. It's used for when you're going down the road and you need to get to an emergency spot to pull over and stop for the time being because of bad weather. And that's about it. If you use it like a four-wheel drive and get yourself somewhere and flip it in, you're just going to get more stuck. Just like when you drove Dad's old four-wheel drive and you got stuck and you put it in four-wheel drive and you even got more stuck. Same concept. Use it sparingly, professionally, and all that. When to shift. I told you the proper RPMs when to shift. You shift down as you're approaching a light. You got to remember, it takes 100 yards loaded in this tractor trailer with a 53-foot trailer on. 100 yards to stop this vehicle in a controlled situation without it sliding, without it jackknifing, without missing gears, without running cars over, all that. It takes about 100 yards to stop it properly. You have, let's say you have an 18 speed. You're up 17 gears, and the light up ahead of you see turns red, it's turning yellow. You should start braking. Start shifting down right then. You need to look ahead. We're in a position up high where we need to look ahead, where it's our advantage. Use your resources. Use those resources. Stop early. Use your brake. Slow down. Get it down to 1,000 RPMs. Clutch, rev, clutch. It's very important to stop the vehicles soon. When to shift. When you start at an intersection, you make one shift. You be looking at your intersection, looking in your intersection again, pulling through the intersection. When you reach the other side of the intersection, you're looking in your mirrors to make sure your trailer made it through okay. You reach over, you grab that shifter, and you shift. So we shifted once before the intersection when we took off. We was in first gear, we went to second gear. Or we might have started in second gear, we went to third gear. Now we have enough torque and power to pull through the intersection and shift after the intersection. Because what should you be doing when you're driving through an intersection? You shouldn't be shifting, looking down here at the shift lever, trying to figure out what gear you're in and where to shift, because you should be paying attention out here. Side to side, intersection safe. Made my shift, side to side, my tractor's safe. Side to side, my trailer's safe. I reach over, grab my shifter now. I glanced at it. I glance back up and shift. It only takes a glance. And we don't want you looking at that shifter as you're trying to drive through that intersection when you're supposed to be looking out here around your vehicle at all times. I might have said this in another lecture, but your new job is to know what's around that vehicle at all times. Your new job is to not run anybody over. You need to know what is around that vehicle at all times. In front, above, below, to the side, behind the trailer. You should be looking in those mirrors and doing a search like this every 10 to 12 seconds. I used to play a game. Every time I seen a sign on the side of the road, whether it was a green mileage sign or a Hardee's sign or a burger sign or a truck driving sign or a curve sign, I'd look in my mirrors. Hey, there's a sign. Okay, looking around me. That's my job. Know what's around this vehicle at all times. All right, back to shifting. So we've talked about when to shift. Straightaways, before an intersection, after an intersection. How about during a lane change? Can you shift? No. You're supposed to be paying attention again about what's around the vehicle. No shifting in the lane change. How about in a turn? No. Give yourself that one shift before you head through the intersection, before you start your turn, and that's it. From second to third gear. Now look in your mirrors, line up your references, turn your vehicle, pull your trailer through, looking in your mirrors, steering that back wheel, reach over and shift after you've made your turn. So far, no shifting in an intersection, no shifting in lane changes, no shifting in turns. Anywhere else should we not shift? How about curves on the mountain? No. We shift before the curve, before a turn. I always am a little bit disappointed when students are in the middle of a turn trying to turn that wheel, look in the mirror, and shift that truck at the same time. They're doing too many things. They look at the shifter, and next thing you know, they say, oh, dang, I hit the curb. I'm really sorry, Mr. Instructor. I've hit the curb. Well, why did you hit the curb? Well, I was trying to shift. Oh, you should have got your shifting done before your turn. Took that one gear and then worked on your turn and didn't shift again until your turn was done. Um, so no shifting in turns. Turns, curves, intersections, lights, lane changes. No shifting in those. Should only be shifting on a straightaway. Make sure you leave yourself plenty of room to shift down before a light. You should be looking a quarter mile ahead. Quarter mile, that's that football field. You should be able to stop that truck. If you're looking way closer than that, it's not going to work out for you. You're going to have a hard time shifting. Eventually, you may cause an accident. Eventually, you may jackknife your truck, lose a load, things like that. Employers, people, society, they don't enjoy that. I'm not trying to scare anybody off, but don't wreck your truck. It's a real hardship when you do. What else we're going to talk about? Weather conditions for shifting. Now, if the weather's rainy, icy, snowy, even hot sun. Hot sun, very good weather. We only have 75% traction on the pavement. 75%. Now, let's knock it down another 25 to 30% for rain. Now we're at about 50% traction. Now let's knock it down about another 25 to 30% traction in the snow and ice. We have around 15% traction in that semi that is 53 foot long and weighs 80,000 pounds. Now you're really, really talking a high risk of an accident. Companies have different rules, but if it's too slick to drive out there, you need to call your driver manager and say it's too dangerous for us to drive right now. We only have less than 20 to 25% of traction, and I'm fully loaded. Weather conditions are really, really tough decisions to make. Everybody wants to make the load, make the money, turn the miles, but you've got to respect the weather, Mother Nature, and your truck. All right, so shifting. I hope everybody's learned a little bit about shifting, when to shift, how to shift, things like that. Enjoy yourself at the school. Remember, you have a big load behind you. Keep on trucking. Have a good night.